Have you ever laughed at someone, thinking they were beneath you, only to find out they held the key to your future? That's exactly what happened to Sonia. Standing in the middle of a packed wedding reception, Sonia pointed at her mother-in-law and laughed loudly. Everyone turned. Guests gasped. Cameras flashed. But Sonia didn't care. She had no idea that in a few hours, everything she loved would start crashing down, and the woman she mocked would be the only one who could save her. Sonia was beautiful. Everyone said it. Slim, fair-skinned, with shiny black hair and eyes that could melt hearts. When she married Daniel, the richest young man in their area, she felt like a queen. Her wedding was huge, held at a 5-star hotel in Lagos. Big celebrities attended. Money flowed like water. Sonia wore a gown imported from London. Everything was perfect. Except for one thing. Her mother-in-law, Mama Grace. Mama Grace was a simple, old woman. She lived in a small flat in Ajij and sold vegetables in the market. She wore old lace wrappers and rubber slippers, even to her son's wedding. When Sonia saw Mama Grace walk into the grand hall that day, dragging her cheap handbag, Sonia felt embarrassed. How could that woman be part of her new high-class life? When it was time for family pictures, Mama Grace stood proudly beside her son. Her faded dress looked so out of place among the sparkling gowns and suits. Sonia whispered to her friends, loud enough for others to hear. Look at her. She looks like our maid. Maybe she should serve food instead of taking pictures. Laughter broke out among Sonia's bridesmaids. Mama Grace heard. The smile on her face froze. She looked at her son Daniel, but said nothing. Daniel looked uncomfortable but also said nothing. The photographer awkwardly took the picture. The moment was captured, forever. Sonia didn't know that day that she had just planted the seed of her own downfall. After the wedding, Sonia and Daniel moved into a luxury duplex in Lekki. At first, everything seemed fine. Sonia spent her days shopping at malls, getting her nails done, and hosting rich friends. She refused to visit Daniel's mother, even though Mama Grace invited them several times. What will I be doing in that old woman's dirty house? Sonia complained. Daniel begged her to show respect. But Sonia didn't listen. Whenever Mama Grace called, Sonia would roll her eyes and put the phone on speaker for her friends to laugh. She even refused to let Mama Grace come to their house, claiming she didn't want the smell of poverty to enter her new home. One evening, Daniel came home looking stressed. He had just received news that his company was under investigation for fraud. Baby, we need to be careful, he told Sonia. We might lose everything. Sonia laughed. Lose what? Daniel, you are too rich. Those people are just jealous. But Daniel wasn't joking. Within days, bank accounts were frozen. Cars were seized. Their duplex was marked for repossession. Sonia was confused. How could life change so fast? As their world crumbled, Sonia ran to her rich friends for help. But suddenly, they stopped answering her calls. At the malls, she saw them pretending not to recognize her. The worst pain came when she overheard one of them whisper, "Isn't she the one who mocked her mother-in-law at her wedding? Serves her right." Sonia's heart broke. With no money and nowhere to go, Daniel suggested something Sonia never expected. "We have to move in with my mother," Daniel said quietly. Sonia screamed. "Never. Over my dead body." But she had no choice. The next day, Sonia packed what was left of her clothes into a small bag. Daniel drove them to Ajij. Sonia stared at Mama Grace's flat with disgust. It was a simple 2-bedroom. No air conditioning. No marble floors. No chandeliers. Mama Grace opened the door with a big smile. "My children. Welcome home." She hugged Daniel tightly. When she turned to Sonia, Sonia stood stiffly and refused to hug her back. Mama Grace said nothing. She simply stepped aside and let them in. Inside, the house smelled of spices and soap. Mama Grace had prepared a simple meal, jollof rice and fried plantain. Sonia refused to eat, claiming she wasn't hungry. She spent the night crying into her pillow. Days turned into weeks. Sonia struggled. There was no housemaid to wash her clothes. No driver to take her around. No chef to cook her meals. Mama Grace quietly did all the housework without complaining. She even cooked extra food and packed it for Daniel when he went out to look for jobs. One evening, Sonia overheard Mama Grace praying loudly in her room. God, bless Sonia. Teach her kindness. Teach her patience. Help her heal. Sonia's heart tightened. Was this the same woman she mocked? One afternoon, a black Prado Jeep parked outside Mama Grace's flat. Out stepped a tall man in a suit. He looked powerful and rich. He knocked on the door. Mama Grace opened the door and smiled warmly. The man bowed slightly and said, "Good afternoon, Chief. We have been searching for you for months." Sonia peeked through the curtain, confused. "Chief? Searching for Mama Grace?" The man continued. "The board has finally approved your position as the new chairwoman of the Agricultural Bank. Your years of silent investment have paid off." Sonia's jaw dropped. Mama Grace was rich. Very rich. Sonia stood frozen by the curtain. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. She had spent months mocking Mama Grace, calling her poor, dirty, and useless, yet this was the woman who was now being called chairwoman. Mama Grace smiled humbly and invited the rich man inside. Daniel stood to greet him, still shocked. Sonia remained sitting, staring like she had seen a ghost. The man explained that Mama Grace had spent years investing her small vegetable business profits into agriculture shares. She quietly became one of the biggest silent investors in the Agricultural Bank. Now, she was being rewarded. "You are entitled to an official mansion, cars, staff, and a monthly salary of 30 million naira, the man said respectfully. Mama Grace nodded calmly, like it was nothing. Sonia's heart pounded. She wanted to disappear. That night, Sonia couldn't sleep. She thought about all the times she had called Mama Grace a nobody. She remembered the jokes, the gossip, the disrespect. Tears filled her eyes. She realized that money, beauty, and fancy weddings didn't make a person important. Character did. Kindness did. Early the next morning, Sonia woke up before sunrise. She went to the small kitchen and found Mama Grace washing plates. For the first time, Sonia knelt down and said, "Mama, I am sorry. I have been foolish. Please forgive me." Mama Grace looked at her, her eyes warm with love. She reached out, lifted Sonia up gently, and hugged her tightly. "My daughter, I forgave you the very day you mocked me. I knew you didn't understand." Sonia cried openly. For the first time in her life, she felt peace. Even though Mama Grace was now rich, she continued living simply. She refused to leave Ajij immediately. "I want to be sure you have learned the real meaning of life," she told Sonia and Daniel. Sonia started learning how to live humbly. She helped Mama Grace sweep the compound. She went to the market with her. She learned how to greet neighbors with respect and smile at little children. Slowly, Sonia's heart softened. She found herself laughing freely, playing with market women, and feeling alive in a way she never did inside her air-conditioned malls. Daniel too found peace. He started working with a local businessman, learning the real meaning of hard work. One sunny Saturday, Mama Grace gathered Sonia and Daniel in the small living room. She handed them a brown envelope. Inside was the deed to a brand new duplex in Lekki Phase 1, fully paid. Sonia gasped. "Mama, we can't accept this." Sonia cried. Mama Grace smiled. "I didn't give you the house because you are my son and daughter-in-law. I gave you the house because you have finally learned how to be human. And only real humans deserve real blessings." Tears rolled down Sonia's cheeks. She realized. It was not Mama Grace's money that made her great. It was her heart. And that heart had changed Sonia's life forever. Months later, Sonia and Daniel moved into their new house. But this time, things were different. They lived simply. They helped their neighbors. They hosted Mama Grace every weekend, treating her like a queen. And whenever Sonia told their story at women's meetings, she always ended it with one lesson. Never look down on anyone. The person you laugh at today might be the one you will bow to tomorrow. Because the old woman Sonia mocked was the angel who saved her life. Moving into the new house in Lekki was like stepping into a new life. Sonia could hardly believe it. The house was huge, with marble floors, wide balconies, and a garden at the back. Yet, inside her, Sonia stayed humble. She cleaned the floors herself. She greeted the security guards at the gate with a smile. She helped her neighbors when they needed anything. Mama Grace often visited and sat outside under the mango tree with Sonia, drinking zobo and laughing like old friends. Peace had finally come into Sonia's life. But life, as always, had another surprise waiting. One afternoon, Sonia was sweeping the front yard when a black Jeep parked outside the gate. A young woman wearing heavy makeup and designer clothes stepped out. She looked at Sonia and scoffed. "So this is where you're hiding?" Sonia frowned. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" The woman laughed bitterly. "You don't remember me? I'm Angela, Daniel's ex." Before Sonia could speak, Angela hissed loudly. "You think because you married him you have won? Let me warn you. Daniel is not who you think he is." Without waiting for a response, Angela stormed back into her Jeep and sped off. Sonia stood there, heart pounding. What did she mean? What was Daniel hiding? That night, Sonia couldn't sleep. She watched Daniel closely at dinner, every smile, every word. Was he hiding something from her? Was her new happiness just a lie? Daniel noticed her silence. "What's wrong, baby?" he asked, touching her hand. Sonia forced a smile. "Nothing. Just tired." But inside, doubt grew like a cancer. She decided she needed answers, even if it meant digging into Daniel's past. The next day, Sonia followed Daniel when he left home, claiming he was going to the bank. She hired a Kiki driver to follow Daniel's car from a distance. Daniel didn't go to any bank. Instead, he drove to a small hidden restaurant in Aja. Sonia watched from the window as Daniel entered and sat at a corner table. Minutes later, Angela, the ex, walked in and sat with him. They spoke in low tones, leaning close. At one point, Daniel even held Angela's hand briefly. Sonia's heart shattered. Tears blurred her eyes. "After everything Mama Grace taught me, after all my change, is this my reward?" She quietly left the place before they could see her. That night, Sonia sat at the dining table, waiting. When Daniel came in, cheerful and smiling, Sonia stood up. "Where were you today?" she asked coldly. Daniel paused. "I told you, the bank." Sonia slammed her palm on the table. "Stop lying. I saw you with Angela." Daniel's face turned pale. There was a long, painful silence. Finally, Daniel sighed and sat down. "Sonia, it's not what you think. I needed her help." "Help with what?" Sonia demanded. Daniel buried his face in his hands. "Sonia, before we got married, I borrowed a lot of money from her. I was desperate. I was drowning in debt. I didn't want you to marry me broke. Today, I met her to finally pay her back." Sonia stared at him, confused. Daniel continued. "I didn't want to tell you because I was ashamed." Sonia's anger melted into sadness. She realized Daniel wasn't cheating. He was trying to fix his past mistakes. And she had almost thrown away her marriage because of fear. Days passed, and peace slowly returned. Sonia apologized for doubting Daniel, and he promised full honesty going forward. But just when things seemed calm, another storm brewed. One evening, Mama Grace came visiting. She looked worried. "I heard something disturbing today at the market," Mama Grace said quietly. "There's a land fraud happening, and our new house might be involved." Sonia gasped. Mama Grace continued. "The man who sold you the house is under investigation. He's known for selling properties he doesn't own." Fear gripped Sonia's heart. Could it be true? Was our dream house even ours? They decided to investigate immediately. Daniel and Sonia went to the land registry office the next morning. After hours of waiting, the officer in charge came out shaking his head. "I'm sorry. That property you are living in, it belongs to another family." Sonia felt like the ground disappeared under her feet. After everything we suffered, after all our sacrifices, we might lose the house? Daniel clenched his fists. "What can we do?" The officer shrugged. "If the real owners come, you will have to leave unless you settle with them." It was a nightmare. They went back home, broken and scared. Weeks passed in fear, waiting for eviction. Then one evening, a black Prado Jeep drove into their compound. A rich-looking elderly man stepped out with a younger man in suit. "Good evening. Are you the ones living here?" he asked politely. Daniel nodded, heart beating fast. The man smiled warmly. "Relax. I am Chief Benson, the real owner. I have heard everything. I know you bought this house in good faith. And because of the respect I have for Mama Grace, I will gift this house to you." Sonia gasped. Tears rushed down her face. "Gift? Just like that?" Chief Benson nodded. "Mama Grace once helped my wife when she was sick. I can never repay her enough. This is small." Sonia turned to look at Mama Grace. The old woman just smiled humbly, like it was nothing. After Chief Benson left, Sonia hugged Mama Grace tightly. "Mama, you are our angel. If not for you, we would have lost everything." Mama Grace laughed softly. "My daughter, when you sow good seeds, you will reap blessings you never expected." Sonia smiled through her tears. She remembered all her mockery, all her pride, all her disrespect. Now, she knew better. And she promised herself she would spend the rest of her life honoring this woman who had taught her the greatest lesson of all. Kindness changes destinies. Months later, Sonia started a small foundation, the Grace Foundation, helping poor market women and widows. She made it her life mission to lift others the way Mama Grace lifted her. One sunny afternoon, standing at a charity event, Sonia told their full story to the crowd. The people clapped. Many wept. Some hugged Mama Grace, calling her Mother of Blessings. And as Sonia stood there, microphone in hand, looking at Mama Grace in the crowd, she whispered, "Thank you, Mama. You didn't just change my life. You changed my heart." Mama Grace smiled, her eyes full of proud tears. Sonia knew she had finally become the woman Mama Grace believed she could be.